And howdy folks, this is the Swiss here, and I'll be your guest host casting another great replay from HyperONE. Here spawning in the upper right corner is a Protoss this time. It's been a while since I've had an opportunity to try my hand at casting again, and so this is a replay that's been sitting on my laptop for a while now, for a couple months. That means it's an older game being played on Jagannatha, which is no longer in the ladder pool, but it was a great map when it was. HyperONE's opponent today is going to be the blue Zerg, spawning in the bottom left corner, Bildo. Interesting name. That's Bildo with a D, not Bilbo the Hobbit. And the D fortunately replaces the second B in the name rather than the first. And of course, right off the bat, HyperONE has sent two probes right across the map to try to do some harassment. One goes straight into the mineral line, while the other is going to stay behind and looks like block the natural. Now, Bildo does take a few workers off of the mineral line to kill HyperONE's worker, but his second probe has managed to block the natural, and now it's a race to see if he can block the third expansion as well, and looks like he will get it. And now it's off to the races again, folks, as the Zerg desperately tries to get a hatchery down someplace. Can he make it at the triangular third? And no, just a fraction too slow. What this poor Zerg drone doesn't know is that this probe is actually named Usain Bolt. That's his nickname. And it's not just for the taser attached to the top of his forehead. So now the Zerg is desperately trying to get a hatchery down somewhere. Looks like HyperONE took the right path to block the right expansion. Unfortunately, the Zerg took the left expansion location. So at almost the 2-minute mark, he finally gets a hatchery down, which is very late. But he does get it down. Unfortunately, our spawning pool is already finished. So, you know, we should have some Zerglings coming out pretty soon here. Yeah, we got 4 Zerglings on the way. So, you know, the Zerg may actually still be in a fine position. If he uses his Zerglings to clean up this pylon, he could even place down a third hatch very early, because there's really nothing behind this that HyperONE has that could punish some greedy play right now. So let's see if that's the direction he's going to take. No, he's actually, where's he sending his Zerglings? We're going to send him across the map, maybe? Or maybe we're just trying to track down that probe. He doesn't see it. Yeah, HyperONE does have a forge, and he does have a pylon hidden here in a very suspect location behind the mineral line for the hatchery that the Zerg was able to get down. And yep, we're throwing down 2 cannons here. Now, this the hatchery, while it's building, it does not have a great range of vision, so it cannot see what's going on right now. This is on his camera, and just now, after it's already finished, and after he no longer has a chance to cancel it, is the first time that he'll see these cannons here. So right now, the only thing that we have is just these 4 Zerglings here and 1 queen to try to cancel these cannons, or well, not cancel them, but try to save the hatchery. The pylon is positioned in such a place that we could probably depower these, but we're going to lose some Zerglings for our efforts here. But we should be able to save the hatch at least. Now, 2 Zerglings do get baited in. They get aggroed into the cannons and just die immediately, doing nothing. Yep, we're pulling another queen down here. There should be enough force to clean this up. I don't think we're going to lose the hatchery, but it certainly is one more annoyance for the Zerg. And yep, we're going to lose several Zerglings, and HyperONE even focused down this 1 queen. So we lost a queen and several Zerglings for our efforts here. But other than that, you know, not a huge loss. So we kept the hatchery alive, and we actually have 3 early hatcheries. So the Zerg should be in a pretty good place still from here. Now, with that cleaned up, it looks like we are going to take our, how many Zerglings? 10 Zerglings here, run across the map and see what we can do. Unfortunately, I think the answer to that's going to be not a lot. HyperONE does have a full wall up with a Zealot holding position in the door, and he has a cannon behind it, so these Zerglings aren't going to really get anything done. And in fact, it doesn't even look like we're going to poke. I'm not sure. We had an Overlord here. Maybe it scouted the situation earlier, I'm not sure. But these Zerglings are just going to hold back and maybe try to deny any expansions going down very easily for the Protoss. Looking at the production tab, we have another hatchery, building in the natural location. HyperONE is going for a robo. He's building probes and getting +1 weapons. So it looks like we're going to be playing a little bit of a slower game now. We're going to hold back and macro up a little bit and build up an army before we try to do much poking in, it looks like. There are some roaches on the way for the Zerg player. And HyperONE has thrown down a Twilight Council. But other than that, not a whole lot going on at the moment. Looks like we're just going to take our time and sort of slow play this a little bit, which I kind of like from both sides. The Zerg really can't force his way in here right now, and HyperONE really doesn't need to. He does need to get out and take his own expansion at some point, I think, but he needs to build up an army before he can do that. Now, interestingly here, I see on the production tab, the Zerg is getting both burrow and these tunneling claws upgrades for his roaches. Now with that, we should be able to tunnel underneath the wall. In the meantime, though, HyperONE's going to run in with, is that 6? Yeah, 5 or 6 adepts here. Now, 5 or 6 adepts will clear out drones very quickly. Unfortunately, there were roaches and queens already in position, so they're not going to find a lot of damage. I do like that move to try to keep the Zerg economy from growing too fast and getting out of control. But yeah, we're going to lose our adepts. We'll send the last 2 in just to see if they can pick out a few more drones. So far, we've actually killed 6, 7, 8. So these last 2 adepts are actually being very annoying. Where are the roaches? Are they coming? Yeah, okay. Roaches are going to come down and clear out the last adept, but we got 14 worker kills, so that's not bad. Trading 5 or 6 adepts for 14 drones, not terrible there. So that being said, the Zerg already does have a 4th base going down, so he's going to be able to replace these drones very quickly. You know, HyperONE's still stuck on 2 bases, and he doesn't have enough of an army to go out and secure a 3rd base yet. Well, I say that, he just now took it. But he doesn't really have enough army. It's going to be tough to hold it with just 1 immortal. What is his units right now? He's got 1 immortal in production. He has 1 zealot, several sentries, a stalker, and an adept. Versus we've got 8 roaches and 10 zerglings on the map. So yeah, this is going to be a hard base to hold if the Zerg player decides to want to press and pressure him. Which right now the Zerg player is sitting on about a 10 worker lead and about a 20 army supply lead, which actually isn't that bad. You do usually expect the Zerg to have a slight edge on workers and supply. You just don't want, if you're the Protoss in this matchup, you just don't want to let it snowball to the point where the Zerg can just throw wave after wave of units at you without really noticing the units lost. So HyperONE is peeking in with hallucinated Phoenix here. He is going to scout the Hydra and the Hydra Den and the Infestation Pit, and he sees that the upgrades are going down. He's also poking in with an observer here in the front, just seeing where the army is, or looking for it anyways. The army actually just spread out amongst the bases, I think, for the Zerg player here. So nothing real aggressive. I'm sure HyperONE is not real nervous at any of the things that he's seeing right now. He is going to throw down a few safety cannons for defense. I think that's a good idea at this space. Because if you're the Zerg in this position, you sort of do want to go up and poke a little bit at this point, I think. Especially, well, I don't know. This is more army than I thought HyperONE had. But that's still quite a few roaches. Yeah, he just needs to back out of there. Oh, but HyperONE's not going to let him back out of there. He throws down some force fields and forces the trade. So these roaches are going to trade horribly against these immortals and stalkers, especially with cannons to back them up here. So yeah, that was some nice force fields from HyperONE. We traded a nice clump of roaches for just, I think we just lost 2 or 3 sentries there. Yeah, didn't even lose a single stalker in that engagement. Just 2 sentries is all we've lost, and 1 zealot. So that was a nice trade for HyperONE. Nice use of force fields there. So let's see. It looks like both players are... I don't see any signs of a big move out anytime soon. We'll see what this clump of army does here. But it looks like both players are just going to be content to sit back and macro up a little bit, maybe take some extra bases. Our Zerg player here, he's sitting on a lot of minerals. I'd like to see him take 2 or 3 or 4 bases with 3,000 minerals to drop. especially if we're in sort of a slow period in the game. I mean, both sides are just still sitting back passively, content to macro for a little bit. Looks like we've called a temporary ceasefire in the fighting, folks, or, we're trying to work out our differences in a more civilized manner. Zerg and Protoss can live together peacefully. But we just need to work out a proper truce. The Zerg Overmind saw those force fields and decided, you know what, let's give peace a chance. Make love, not war, right? So, yeah, HyperONE is kind of moving his army back and forth here, but I don't really think he's going to move out quite yet. In the meantime, our Zerg player does throw down one extra base, and we're sitting right now at 81 drones. So we're actually getting pretty close to our optimal economy. Maybe 9 or 10 more drones, and I think the Zerg then will be content to just pump the rest of his supply out into army. We have so many minerals right now. We could probably be maxed if we just spent our minerals right now. So extra hatcheries would be wonderful because with this much bank, the deciding resource for how quickly you're able to remax the Zerg is going to be larvae, not necessarily minerals. And it looks like at the exact same moment, both sides have determined that this temporary truce that we were in is over. That's a lot of Zerg army, though. Protoss is going to have to get out of there. And nice use of force fields again to cover his retreat. It's even going to allow HyperONE's army to pick off a couple of roaches from out of range of the Hydras. So this is very nicely done there. Sentries can be a great support unit, but only if they're used right. I mean, if they're not used right and you're not spending their energy on effective force fields, they can be totally worthless. But so far, HyperONE has made great use of his investment in these sentries. So nicely done. Looks like the Zerg has noticed the same thing. He's morphed in a couple of Ravagers. And so Ravagers are nice against the sentries because they can use their corrosive bile ability to actually bile down the force fields and destroy them. The Zerg does have a maxed army right now. We're at 199 supply versus only 168 supply for the Protoss. So I kind of like to see the Protoss move out for a push, and indeed he's going to do so. Not the Protoss, the Zerg rather. Looks like we're going to push forward, and actually HyperONE's pushing forward at the exact same time, so we are going to clash in the middle. Or, well, the Zerg's going to run away, but he's going to bury a lurker here. Oh, another great force field to create a choke point and be able to pick off this lurker for free without any support from the rest of the Zerg army. Again, great use of his sentry's abilities there. Looks like we're not going to take a big engage, just a little poke between the two armies, and then we're going to retreat back into our own corners a little bit. HyperONE's coming forward again. Again, poking. Oh, a nice storm right in the center of the Zerg army. Unfortunately, he stormed his own warp prism there. But great use of force fields again here. He's carved off a sliver of the Zerg army right here in the front, while most of the Zerg army is not able to engage, including these lurkers, which that's huge. So he's got a huge Colossus count right now. It's able to just... yeah, we have 5 Colossuses on the map right now. That's just going to tear through these Hydralisks. Not so great against the lurkers, although after the Hydralisks are cleared up, there's enough army here to just march in and kill those two. So great engagement from HyperONE. And just like that, the Protoss has taken a lead in the army supply. I don't think it'll last long because the Zerg has plenty of minerals to remax. Bildo is hurting a little bit for gas though, but even just a couple of rounds of like Zergling run-bys or something, we'll probably find some damage. I think HyperONE, he has a few cannons. Well, this space has nothing, but there's a few cannons and batteries mixed in amongst his bases here, but not really enough. If Bildo wanted to make some big Zergling run-bys, they'd probably find some damage. Looks like we're setting up for another engagement here. Another good use of force fields. Oh, incredible use of force fields. Look at this. We've created a nice choke point right here on the ramp, and we have, how many Colossuses is this? 6 Colossuses just chewing through the Zerg army in that choke point. That's a lot of splash damage. That's a horrible engagement for the Zerg. Partly just due to the terrain. That ramp creates a choke point anyways, but HyperONE caused the situation to be even worse for the Zerg by throwing down a force field or 2 there. Good. Nicely done. This Colossus count is really getting high. We've got 6 on the field, and yeah, we've got another 2 in production right now. So we're going to have double-digit Colossuses before now if HyperONE keeps this up, which that's huge. Now, at some point, I would think that the Zerg, he's got to transition off of this Hydra Lean Roach composition. This just is not going to get anything done when there's this many Colossuses on the field. And we've got Storm researched as well. Yeah, that's just too much splash. We need to move into maybe a Spire, or more Lurkers would be good against the Colossuses. Not great, but they'd at least trade better than these Hydras would. Because these Hydras, I believe they take bonus damage against the Lurker splash, or against the Colossus splash. And with the sentries, as well as HyperONE's been able to use those to create nice choke points and trap outs and split off just part of the Zerg army. Yeah, we're going to trade very poorly if we maintain this army composition against what HyperONE is throwing on the field. For now, though, it looks like we're going to poke in yet again with a massive clump of bio against mass Colossus. Some more force fields go down. Again, we're trapping out most of the bio, splitting it off so we can attack just a portion of the army at a time. And wow, yeah, that's an insanely efficient trade for HyperONE. So looking at the units lost tab, yeah, we're more than twice as efficient as the Protoss than the Zerg is being right now. And let's see, yeah, we're at 9 Colossus. That's a lot of Colossus. But you know what? If the Zerg maintains this unit composition of Roach Hydra, it's going to be very effective. It's scary to keep it at to stay on mass Colossus, because all it takes is for the Zerg to throw down a surprise Spire and pump out like three or four Corruptors, and these Colossuses are not going to have a great time. But for now, it's certainly working. But yeah, for right now, the Blue Zerg is just content to continue to mass Roaches and Hydras. So, what's that popular culture definition of insanity again? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Now, we do have some Vipers thrown into the mix this time, although they did absolutely nothing. I think he forgot to use his energy on him there. I'd like to see, the Vipers can do an abduct and steal some of these Colossuses into the middle of the army and kill them that way. Although we've got 9 Colossus on the field, you're never going to yoink enough of those away to actually get the count down to a feasible number for the Zerg to engage with the composition that he's going for. He really needs to switch off of the Roach Hydra composition. On the production tab, though, all we're doing is building more Roaches and more Hydras. So you have to be pretty happy right now looking at how well you're trading if you're HyperONE. 20,000 minerals lost for the Zerg versus only 9,600 for you. Now, interestingly, the Zerg player had a huge bank earlier. Now that bank, we've traded so inefficiently that bank is cut down significantly, and it's actually the Protoss player that has a considerable bank at this moment. Yeah, so we've made some Zerglings as a Zerg player. We're going to throw them into the base, but unfortunately we're in right past the army, past all those Colossuses, so we're not going to see much done. If he's going to try for a Zergling run by, we need to attack these corner bases that aren't so well defended. We can probably run right past these cannons and batteries here and into the mineral line, or this base is totally undefended at the moment. But we definitely don't want to be running past our army. Oh, it looks like we are doing a nice full frontal probe assault here. I'm sure that HyperONE is just trying to reduce some of his worker supply so he can get more army. It would have been kind of cool if we just moved like this hatchery or maybe this one in the corner here with our probes just to force the Zerg player to respond. Now this is a nice use of force fields, except he didn't fully block off. Let's look at that again. So this fight here, HyperONE, he blocks off the army, but then he doesn't fully block it off by placing the force fields all the way over to the ramp. He kind of creates the Zerg player's concave for him here, and so most of the Zerg army does get to engage these Colossuses. So we've lost quite a few of them, and now we're going to try to retreat back home and see if we can save the remaining 3 Colossus here. Now we do have some Blink Stalkers coming down in here. They might be able to save the day, and yep, especially with the battery overcharge, I think these 3 Colossuses should survive. But we do lose a lot of them here. Let's see, are we building more? Production tab. We're building 4 more Colossus, so we're still going to have a lot of them out on the field. So, but that was we lost more in that fight than we have in any of the other fights this game. Going to move forward and try to bait the Hydras in to 3 Colossuses. Got a lot of sentries. Are we going to see some more force fields? See some stalkers moving down. Okay, the Zerg player is just going to retreat, and that's certainly wise. You just don't want to send pure Hydra into a force of 7 Colossus. Yeah, plus shields and plus batteries and cannons. That's not going to be a good fight any day. We are rotating around. I'd love to see the Zerg player here hit one of these undefended bases. You know, the army's not really in position at the moment. He is going to be able to take down this one Colossus. Oh, no battery overcharges. Just barely saves us. This Colossus has 1 life on it. Yeah, one hit point. So the army's on the way, but it's not in position. This, unfortunately, I think we probably just trapped our Hydras in here. Yeah. Yep, army catches up to it, throws down some great force fields once again, and prevents these Hydras from retreating. And so these Hydras have effectively just walked right into the midst of 11 Colossus here. Yeah, not a great trade once again for the Zerg. Looks like 1 Colossus goes down, but we're still in double-digit Colossus numbers. We definitely need to be transitioning off of Hydras. Yeah. I mean, we've got in production, we've got 13 Hydras and 3 or 4 roaches. So that's not going to be a very good composition. We do have another Viper on the field. Let's see if we can use its energy for something now. Abduct would be great. Again, if you can avoid being trapped by the force fields, just abduct a Colossus into the center of your army and run away. That would be a great way to start picking off some of these Colossus numbers. Unfortunately, I don't think you're ever going to pick off enough to make this a manageable army to engage. I think you're going to have to transition into lurkers or ultralifts would be amazing against this, actually. Or of course, throwing down a spire would be quite nice too. Looking at the units lost tab, yeah, it's still we're trading very well as the Protoss right now. That's just been the theme of this game. I feel like a broken record saying it over and over, but so we're dancing around a little bit with our army as the Protoss, seeing what we can do. Maybe looking for their army a little bit. Actually, no, this observer knows exactly where his army is. Another great engagement. Okay, this time the Viper does get down Parasitic Bomb on one of the Colossuses, and it goes down. The second Colossus goes down. This is a lot of Zerg army here, and it's getting a decent engage, not a great engage. Even with, it's doing some damage, even with HyperONE fighting in front of his shield batteries there in the middle of the map. So that was pretty decent. I think on the whole, HyperONE still traded a lot better than the Zerg did. Oh, I like the hallucinated Colossuses to help tank some damage and to scare the Zerg into retreating a little bit so we can clear up some creep. But HyperONE needs to just head on back home with his remaining 3 Colossuses at this point, because this is just too much Zerg to try to fight. And the Zerg is going to run forward. You know, we can engage 2 or 3 Colossuses with Mass Roach Hydra. Not great, but we can do it. But 2 or 3 is a lot different than 9 or 10. So, so finally we have reset. Yeah, we've reset the Protoss army. We have no more Colossuses. Now we do have a lot of Archons out on the map, so that'll be nice. But I don't think 8 Archons is going to be able to take down all the Zerg army that we have. Bildo is maxed again. Now this certainly the battery overcharge with the cannons will help a lot. These roaches will eventually be able to target down the cannons. That's a lot of cannons though, so maybe not. Yeah, we've got a lot of cannons and batteries at this base here. That's maybe going to save the day for right now. But we do have some reinforcements coming in for the Zerg player. I think we are going to be able to clean up the Protoss army, and this base might be in trouble. Do these High Templar have any Storm available? Not almost. Yep, we have Storm available right now. Will we use it? Okay, we're just going to retreat. Oh, but big Zealot warp in, and we're going to run back in with Zealots, Storm, and we have 4 Immortals. There's a Storm, goes down finally. We have more Storms available if we can use them. Yeah, this base is going to survive. It was a touch-and-go situation there, but I think the base will survive. So let's see. So, okay, HyperONE's going to pull back just briefly to regather his army, which I actually like that quite a bit. But yeah, he'll be able to clean up these last couple roaches and Hydras, no problem. So he saved his base. In the meantime, HyperONE is down to 105 supply versus 144 for the Zerg. And the Zerg is going to once again, pump everything he has into Hydralisks and a few roaches. You know, I get the sense, though, that, you know, our natural and our main and the third base, yeah, both third bases, you know, we're running out of minerals pretty quickly on this map. So, you know, this entire game, the Zerg has been trading very inefficiently against the Protoss, but that's been okay because, you know, in traditional Zerg economy fashion, he's had plenty of resources to be able to just throw over and over as cannon fodder into the Protoss here. But that's quickly going to change as this map starts to mine out. So if we don't switch compositions right now, I think I think the Zerg is going to have a hard time finishing out this game with the victory because we're going to run out of minerals and we're not going to be able to keep throwing these armies away. Looks like we're going in for another engagement right here. Some nice storms, and you just one Colossus this time, but man, we've got so many Immortals. How many Immortals do we have right now? We have 7 Immortals and a Colossus, and then some nice storms going down for HyperONE. Yeah, this is a tough army to engage for the Zerg for sure, if we're sticking on this Roach Hydra composition. Morphing a few Lurkers, I like that. That'll... You know, honestly, the Lurkers were more helpful, or would have been more helpful when we had Mass Colossus on the field. These Immortals will actually trade pretty well against the Lurkers. So unfortunately, it almost looks like we're changing into the right composition at exactly the wrong time. Bring in some Queens to help the army. That will be nice. Or I take that back. Maybe we're just throwing down some creep spread again. HyperONE's army is coming in for one big engagement. He's got Zealots, Immortals, and Archons, along with some splash damage, Storms, and Colossus both. Those are some nice Storms that we managed to hit there. I have a very bruised Zerg army. We need to pull back if you're Zerg right now. Yeah, we're not. So unfortunately we've just lost the army yet again, and we're fast running past the point in the game where we can keep trading this army out over and over again. We are going to put down some Lurkers here. HyperONE, do we have? Yeah, we do have an Observer. So, so 2 Lurkers is not going to be able to even zone out this army very effectively. Both sides content to just sit back and relax a second, though. Take a short breather. HyperONE, I think, would like to poke in. Oh no, actually, we're going back home to what are we morphing in, or what are we warping in? Oh, just more Zealots. A couple of High Templar here. Yep, the storm will be big again against this army for sure. And HyperONE is already remaxed. The Zerg is not remaxed, so HyperONE, if he moves out right now, he can. We can maybe land a deciding blow against the Zerg player if we move out right now and kill this army that's on the field. Takes a moment to kill the rocks. Okay. Looks like Bildo has decided that his workers are no longer useful either. He's going to just sacrifice them off. But I think it's too late. You know, I like the idea of getting rid of our workers, but we need more army now because the fight's happening already. And these storms are just so good right now, especially against the Hydralisks. Okay, you know what? Our observer did die, so we're not going to be able to clean up the last lurker on the field. But Oh, nicely done. Let me back up actually here. Sorry. Yeah, I want to see. So at some point in this fight, HyperONE's army, or his observer, died. So he's not actually able to see that lurker to kill it, but he decides to sacrifice an Archon in the hopes that the splash damage will kill it. Unfortunately, the lurker has 1 life remaining after that, and it looks like HyperONE's decided not to sacrifice another army unit to clean that up. But still, that was a cool move. I like that a lot. So I wonder if HyperONE's army drew straws or something like that to decide who the sacrifice would be. So bad luck for that Archon, I guess. Kind of wish it was, a Zealot or something that we sacrificed to try to kill the lurker. But still, I liked that. Nice move. So it looks like we're going to pull back. Both sides are building up again for yet another big push. Due to the lack of gas, it looks like Bildo's adding quite a few Zerglings into the composition now. We've got 58 Zerglings to support our Hydras and Roaches. The Zerglings wouldn't be a bad unit to add as long as we're not attacking into the army with them. Like the Zerglings are great for backstabs at the bases. Honestly, at this point, there's not much minerals left in the bases, so you probably just want to go right after the production, try to kill some gateways and things. But please, we do not want to be sending the Zerglings into Archons and a splash from the Storm and the Colossus. That is not the way to use our Zerglings at this point in the game. So I kind of think at this point, Bildo's just going to GG. He sees the writing on the wall. That was a great game, though. Well played to both sides. The Zerg player really persevered here by, he remaxed over and over in this game. Unfortunately, the Protoss player, he was just using easier tools the whole game, I guess. Let's see, let's pull up the units lost tab. Yikes, yeah, 38,000 minerals versus almost 60,000 minerals for the Zerg player. He just, unfortunately, the Zerg, the Protoss Death Ball, we just had so much splash. We had Storm, we had Colossus, and we just were never going to, as the Zerg player, be able to overcome that. 306 Hydralists died this game. That's so expensive. Hydralists are just not the army unit to be trying to use against Storm and Colossus for sure. But still, well done to Bildo for staying in this game as long as he did. He stayed in it a long time until the resources started depleting, and he just didn't have enough money left to continue to supply cannon fodder into the Protoss Death Ball. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this game as much as I enjoyed casting it. It was a pleasure seeing HyperONE play as Protoss. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to like and subscribe on HyperONE's YouTube channel, which is Random HyperONE. That's all one word, Random HyperONE. Don't bother to like and subscribe to my channel because I have 0 regular viewers, and frankly, I intend to keep it that way. But HyperONE's channel is outstanding. It has lots of great content that comes out every day. So with that, folks, I'll sign off, and until next time, good game, well played.